Welcome to Arcade Attack. A retro gaming podcast for up to 4 players.
Welcome, listeners, to another Arcade Attack podcast. I'm Dylan. I'll be your host for the evening. We've got Keith. No. Oh, Keith's not here. Adrian.
I'm here. You can never get rid of me.
Adrian is here.
I'm part of the furniture, aren't I?
Part of the furniture, mate. Part of the furniture. And we've got Rob. Rob is back.
Hey, it's good to be back.
Where you been, bro?
Well, my TV sucked me into Videoland, and I've been helping Princess Lana, Simon Belmont, Mega Man, and Kid Icarus fight Mother Brain.
Oh, nice. Did you guys win?
It's a never-ending battle.
Damn it.
They did say I was better than the last guy, though, so that's good.
Lol, that's funny. That's funny. I'm sure everyone got the reference. So today, we are talking about, like I said in the Amiga podcast, I said we're talking about 3 Amiga games today. 3...
Well, no,
Cyberpunk.
there's only 2 Zool games, so how can you do about 3 of them?
Sure.
I gotcha.
We're talking about 3 Cyberpunk Amiga games and MS-DOS games, if we're going to be technical, that I loved.
Are they all Cyberpunk, or is it just kind of sci-fi
It's
stuff?
Cyberpunk overtones. I'm playing it hard and fast with the term Cyberpunk with these, but I feel like if people were to remake these, which I think someone should, I think they could have, stronger Cyberpunk influences. I'm going for it. I'm going for it. We're going to be talking about Beneath the Steel Sky, Universe, and a game called Dreamweb, which I'm sure people have heard about. Adrian's looking at me very quizzically. You guys have had a quick whiz on some of these.
Yeah, but I'd never heard of any of them before you sent me the links to those.
I had heard of Beneath the Steel Sky, quite a famous game. And I had heard of Dreamweb before, but Universe,
Universe, I don't even know if Universe was out for actual retail. I can't see it. I couldn't seem to find a retail copy. I think I played it on some bootleg back in the day. And
Gotta say though, I don't think out of those 3, the only one that's Cyberpunk I'd say is Dreamweb. The other 2 are more sci-fi. Well,
would you say they had cyberpunk elements?
Not. Maybe the Beneath the Steel Sky does a little bit.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I did a bit of research and I found out that Universe was the best-selling game in the Amiga.
What?
In a parallel universe.
Oh man, we haven't even started properly and the jokes have started already. But okay, so I'm going to title this Amiga / MS-DOS Cyberpunk games that could do with a remake. We'll start with the first one, which is, in spite of what Adrian just said, the most well known is Beneath the Steel Sky. It was, like I said, released on DOS. It was released in March 1994.
All 3 of these were around that time, right?
All 3 of these were pretty much within the same year or a year and a half.
Because this is like near the epicenter of Cyberpunk. You're kind of, William Gibson obviously coined, I think we've talked about this a little bit before, but William Gibson kind of terms the whole kind of like, cyberpunk thing in the early 80s when he writes Neuromancer and the kind of genre develops. Early 90s it becomes very big, like, Billy Idol puts out an entire album, a cyberpunk kind of concept album, which is destroyed his career. And
Is it a good album though? Would you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, this was this lead song is a song called "Shock to the System," but it's really weird because he pronounced it "system."
Shock to the system.
To the system. It's really weird. And then, we're kind of on the cusp of that amazing year of cyberpunk in Hollywood, where so many hit films came out: Judge Dredd, Tank Girl, Barbed Wire, The Net. All massive hits.
Yeah. All massive hits.
In a parallel universe. Oh, and of course, the biggest one of all, Johnny Mnemonic. With Keanu Reeves.
Oh, yeah, amazing film, Johnny Mnemonic.
Has that aged well?
No,
I don't think any of them have aged
Tank Girl has become a big cult film, but it's a bad film. But none of them have aged well.
They're all bad. But
Barbed Wire, Pamela Anderson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess maybe, so these 3 games were released around that sort of mid-90s-y style, when all these things were great. It was a common theme, wasn't it? It was an easy theme. I think, for me, video games are about fantasy.
Yeah.
About, something that's a bit gritty, cyberpunk it. Yeah? Cool. Alright. So Beneath the Steel Sky was released by Revolution Software, who are still going today because they've remastered most of their back catalogue, on iOS.
Yeah.
So you can actually get Beneath the Steel Sky on iOS for a couple of quid. It was released in 2009. Oh my god, it was released 10 years ago on iOS. So, yeah. Across the board, critically, it got about 80-90%.
Yeah, it's well received, wasn't it?
Very well received. Even though I couldn't find the specific figures, it is regarded as one of the best-selling Amiga games.
Yeah.
So,
and not in a parallel universe.
Not in a parallel universe. I suppose the iOS version downloaded, exported, whatever you want to say, 20,000 units.
That's not bad.
In a month. In the first month it was been released. So.
I mean, I got it on GOG for free.
Yeah.
On
you
GOG.
can get it on GOG. Yeah.
Not sure if it's still free, but
it's on Steam as well, I think.
it's on Steam. It's not very expensive, is it?
It's not, and I think it's a great game. The reason I've chosen these 3 games is I think there's more. I think they were good games back in the day, but there's more to come from them, and that's what. It's not just remakes for remakes' sake.
Because they are all 3 of them point-and-click games.
They're all point-and-click games. Mm-hmm. They're all point-and-click games.
Which I know Adrian's a big fan of point-and-click games, but here's a question before we start. How viable do you think the point-and-click genre is in 2019?
Well, it's not. I think that's another reason I want to bring this back, because these games have got really good storylines. They captivated me 20 odd years ago, or 25 years ago. I just like to see something different being done with them, whether it's VR, third person, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, point and click.
I don't know, it's got a little resurgence with Thimbleweed Park, and there's a few other sort of bits and bobs knocking about. I think someone made a new Day of the Tentacle game, quite a new one. It's like a fan homage, like a sequel. So
you said it there, so it's homage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sort of,
there's a buzzing community on the internet about point and click, but it's not a huge market. It's a passionate market.
It's for retro gamers, isn't it? It's not for the current gamer. Yeah. So if you wanted to bring something to the current gamer, it has to be a first person game or a third person game or a VR game, something like that. And I think these three games, for varying reasons, as I'm going to go into, are worthy of that. Whether anyone will take up the mantle, I doubt it.
Everyone's looking at you, Dylan. It's your job.
I can't make these games. They're going to be too complex. But yeah, so it was, going back to Beneath the Steel Sky, it was one of the better regarded games on the Amiga. Slightly strangely, it's not, for these Cyberpunk games, you usually go into Europe or America. This one was actually set in Australia. I don't know, did you guys pick that up when you were having a look at Beneath the Steel Sky for me?
Yeah, because in the intro sequence, he gets adopted by an Aboriginal tribe.
Boom. There he is. So...
Nah, it went over my head like a boomerang.
Right. So, the main guy is a guy called Robert.
Yep. How did it feel to live in that game, Rob?
So you could be the new Robert for new Beneath the Steel Sky. Yeah. So he's He's the only survivor in a helicopter crash, which kills his mum. So
He has an American accent, though, right? No one else.
Yes,
it's weird
he has an
because
American
He has an American accent, and everyone else in the film has British accents, apart from like the kind of tribe elder who has an Australian accent.
now that's only in the CD-ROM version. So in the Amiga version I played,
You can have any accent you want.
the accents were in your brain. So you know, I'd watch a lot of Neighbours when I was younger. So everyone in Beneath the Steel Sky talked a bit like Madge Bishop
Or Harold Bishop.
or Harold Bishop. So
Or Natalie Imbruglia.
Natalie Imbruglia. Dude, don't even get me started.
Holly Valance.
Holly Valance. Oh, stop it.
Or
Right.
whichever one of the Hemsworths was in it.
Hemsworth was not in Neighbours.
Pretty sure one of them was in Neighbours, one of them was in Home and Away.
Wow.
Get out of what?
Mind blown.
Right, I'll go and Google that afterwards.
Yeah.
But our Rob is completely right. So he's fostered by, well, it's listed in the notes as a local tribe, but it's an Aboriginal tribe, isn't it? They gave him the surname Foster. So he's called Robert Foster. They gave him the surname Foster because they fostered him. And also, there was a can of beer nearby. Have you
Was
ever-
it a castle name by any chance?
The can of beer is actually in the intro sequence.
Really?
So,
Huh, I didn't even
can
catch
of
that.
Foster's. Haha, see?
Did Fosters pay money to have their drink in that, do you think?
They didn't have the official Foster's logo on the can. So, but
You have to say that it was a very well artfully drawn intro sequence.
it is. It's
Yeah, I
lovely.
like the
It's got a
intro,
really
it's
good sort of comic book vibe. But there is a good reason behind that. So I'll come to that. I'll come to that in a short while. This is really funny. The organization, so the world's been damaged by something called the Euro-American War. So Australia are been kept out of it. So the Europeans and the Americans cause a massive war. But it's not clear whether it's nuclear or, pollution or whatever. There is now a NATO-esque organization who have agreed on some ideals, the main ones of which are to remove all labor representation and social benefits. Like, I'm not even kidding.
Whoa.
Yeah. 94, right? So Robert's got to learn how to scavenge, how to survive in this I hate using this term, post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
But he's got a buddy.
Oh, he's got a buddy.
He's got a buddy. And his buddy is called Joey. So it's a bit like a reverse mac and cheese. So that's another clue. So there's a bit of a reverse mac and cheese. So Robert's the human and Joey's the robot.
Yeah.
So rather than mac and cheese, you've got cheese and mac.
And you got another Aussie reference there.
And you got another Robert, little Joey.
I thought it'd be a little kangaroo, yeah,
There's a
jumping
kangaroo,
around.
baby kangaroo.
Shall I say it? No, I won't say it.
What?
Is Joey better than the Rocky IV robot?
Ah.
I went there.
One thing, right? Because we love, as our listeners will know, we do love Rocky IV Robot. But Joey, one of the main things of Beneath the Steel Sky is you have to put Joey into different shells.
Oh.
Like, he is essentially just like a circuit board.
Wait a minute, there can't be a robot in this game, Dylan, because you said there are almost no robots in fiction that have personalities.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you changed your tune all of a sudden?
Are you going back to my Rise of the Robots thing? Oh, come on. Come on.
That's yonks ago, man.
Trust you to remember things I say. Anyway, so, Joey, so it's a point and click game. Like Rob said, it's a point and click game. And Joey's on this circuit board. And the first thing you put him in, I remember, you put him into a Hoover. It's the first thing you have to put him in. But you have to put him in different things around the game to obviously to solve certain puzzles. That's
clever.
pretty cool, right?
No, I saw bits of it, and yeah, some of the robots are quite humanoid. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a really, no, I don't want to give too many spoilers away.
sorry.
Actually, better give just an all-round spoiler alert. I'll try and keep them to a minimum, but some of these are pretty critical in why I want to, want these games to be remade. So Robert and Joey, living in the outback. Oh, having a good time. For seemingly no reason, Robert is kidnapped. So he must have some kind of importance. And taken to Union City by some nasty people. I don't even know whoever the lords of that state are, have just kidnapped him.
The fascist police force.
Police force, thank you. Fascist police force, thank you. And so the plot kind of goes from there. So he's in another helicopter crash. I mean, how unlucky do you have to be in 2 helicopter crashes, but then also to survive?
And also, I don't think going back to the tribe is an option because
why wasn't? Oh, did they kill them all?
they nuked the entire area on the way out.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm glad you're here just to fill in my blanks about the plot. But yeah, so it starts off from there. It shouldn't be hilarious, but the beginning of the game is pretty hilarious because you see the helicopter crash. Like Robert kind of rolls out with Joe. It is funny. It is funny, but it is great. It looks great on the Amiga. It looks good on the MS-DOS as well.
It looks really cool.
Amiga and MS-DOS pretty much shoulder to shoulder.
Carbon copies.
The only thing the Amiga really lost out on was the storage space because it had to come on floppy disks. Because you didn't have until later on in the A1200's life, you didn't have a CD-ROM storage.
It had the same sort of look and feel of, I think, Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis kind of graphics. Would you agree? Sort of that sort of style.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, the same kind of style, but obviously with a cyberpunk.
Yeah, no whips.
Sci-fi. No whips. No whips.
Minimal
no
snakes.
But, I forgot to say, this one and Dreamweb are both now, I think, officially abandonware. And you can play them both through the Scum engine, the Scum virtual machine online, which is Scum, with 2 M's, of course, vm.org. So that's what I would recommend people do. How are you going to play Universe? You probably won't be able to play Universe. You probably just have to watch it on YouTube. So tough. If you weren't there back in the day, then tough. So yeah, it was built using Revolution's virtual theater engine. First used in their other massive game, Lure of the Temptress. Did you ever play that one?
I've heard of it.
That's also on Scum VM, also worth a look, but
because I love point and click, but I'm guilty of sticking mainly to LucasArts or Lucasfilm.
You're like a LucasArts fanboy.
Yeah, but I have played things like King's Quest a little bit. I did play a bit of things like Simon Sorcerer. So I did. That was the furthest I went, really.
Operation Stealth?
No.
Oh, man.
I'm a Lucas man. What can I say?
Oh, you're a Lucas guy. Okay. Wow. That's fine. That's by the by.
I did play a bit of Beneath the Steel Sky. I'm really early in the game, but I'm going to keep plodding along. I'm enjoying it so far.
Beneath the Steel Sky it's engrossing, and I like how Rob picked out that it was a nice sort of comic intro to the game because it was a brainchild of Revolution founder Charles Cecil, who I tried to contact, but I'll say a bit about that in a minute. A guy called Dave Cummins, sad story there. A guy called Daniel Marchant, who I tried to contact, couldn't get hold of him. And also Dave Gibbons. Well, I think Rob would probably have heard of Dave Gibbons. He was
He was the artist for Watchmen, most famously.
For Watchmen. So he's big.
He is.
So I didn't even bother trying to contact him. So
I will always remember that because I had about a 6-month period of unemployment a few years back, and I interviewed to manage a Forbidden Planet.
What?
Yeah, the one in Croydon. Actually got to the second interview for that. But on the first interview, I had to go to the head office and take like a quiz on comics and sci-fi. And
you smashed it, right?
I did alright. I didn't smash it. There were some hard questions in there. But one of the questions is, who is the artist in Watchmen? I was like, said to the guy afterwards, like, I just couldn't remember that. I know that, but I couldn't remember it. And I was lifting on the way down, he's talking about like, a few things. Oh yeah, I've got this new Dave Gibbons book. And I snapped my fingers and went, boom. Dave Gibbons, that's the artist. Watch me. He was like, yeah, I just want to test you out, see if you did. So now I will always remember that. And
wow.
Watchmen, yeah, amazing. I mean, the art is really good in Beneath the Steel Sky, same kind of thing. But no, the art in Watchmen is so intricate, like the number of frames, like in each panel, and it's actually symmetrical. The first, I believe, one of the issues, is actually like the framing is the same backwards and forwards.
Wow, that's mad, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
He's a funky Gibbon.
He's a.
Yeah.
I mean, Alan Moore obviously wrote that. The great comics' greatest geniuses. Well, comics, one of I think the top 3 geniuses in kind of comic book history, was obviously also partially responsible for that. Alan Moore wrote From Hell, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, V for Vendetta.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
There are a lot of bad films made out of those, but the source material is amazing.
Right. Needless to say, Rob is our expert on such things, especially compared to me and Adrian. But yeah, so it was the brainchild of those four. So they wanted a graphic adventure that's, closely linked to, comic books and that kind of, that kind of feel.
Mature film.
It is quite mature. A lot of the dialogue in the game is pretty, not raunchy, but it's not, it's not you. It's more sort of PG, kind of 12 rated. But it's good, it's.
So what do you actually have to do in the game?
So, in the game, you have to get out of Union City. So, you are Robert, and you've got to use Joey, to get, cause you're on the run, essentially. You are, it's akin to a prison bus, transportation bus crashing and the guys, the convicts escaping. You are said convict, and you've got to get out of there. But there are plot twists, and here, you find out why Robert's there. I don't know if I should tell people this, but we'll go back to the synthesis of this. So I wanted to get a hold of Dave Cummins. So Dave Cummins, everyone at Revolution, from what I hear, loves Dave Cummins. So he did he did a lot of stuff here. I think he was the composer. He wrote the game. He might have done some programming behind it as well. So he was the main guy who I wanted to find. Unfortunately, I found a forum thread by a guy called something silly, Infinitron. Do you like that, Infinitron? Yeah.
Should be a new comic book, shouldn't it? Infinitron.
He said this, right? He said this. So this is verbatim. His old boss, Paul Cooper, who gave him his first gig in the games industry as his assistant, had been in contact with Dave's younger brother and wrote me to let me in on the sad news. I'm not sure how he died, but he was living in Hull and unfortunately had been cursed with deteriorating health. So Dave Cummins apparently is not with us. Like I said, I tried to contact Charles Cecil at Revolution, and he's very kind. No, he wrote back to me and said, we've got a big announcement on the way. I can't talk right now, but after that's done, then I'll pick up any email Q&A and stuff.
Sounds like one down on the remakes, maybe two to go.
So, I don't know if he's going to come back and say, well, we found someone who's really good with Unreal Engine and they're making a new Beneath the Steel Sky, but why not? Who knows? I keep on checking back on their pages, their Twitter pages and things.
He made Broken
Sword. Yeah.
He's a big name, isn't he, Charles Cecil? We like
Charles Cecil and Dave Cummins. It sounds like it was like a love-hate relationship. I think you had Charles is the business kind of driven one, and then Dave is the sort of enigmatic genius, or was, unfortunately. But yeah, I think it said, I've not put it down there, I think he might have passed away as late as 2007, 2008, so.
It's very sad because
it's super sad. So they'd have to tap into the story, the game a different way, without him. So it's really sad. But so Infinitron goes on actually. So he contacted Charles Cecil as well. And Charles says this, as I've often said, Dave was a troubled genius. He may have been pretty damning of me, as we didn't always see eye to eye, but I totally respect and now miss his intelligence and talent. So that kind of confirms the fact he's probably passed away. But yeah, really sad. Before I go into sort of my final points about Beneath the Steel Sky, I mean, do you guys think it's worth a remake from what you've seen?
I like the look of it. I like the feel of the game. Why not? I think it's only available current. Well, it is available online, isn't it? Could it be remastered? Is that what you're thinking?
So that remaster on iOS is just a sharper version of the original game. It's not like a complete overdue.
Because we're up in the air, aren't we, about the remasters of Monkey Islands and so forth? And
I think people.
Yeah, I don't like the look of it.
Yeah, it can be done quite well. I think Full Throttle was done quite well, but it's got to be done very carefully with keeping respect to the. I mean, do you make a whole new game? That's the thing.
Well, that's the thing. I think the whole Robert Joey mechanic. I think the setting. You know, it's quite dark. It's got a very relevant story.
But the game visually is not really that dark. I mean, I know it's in the future and there's a lot of like kind of rooms electronics in, but I don't know. Like, it doesn't. That's why to me it doesn't really feel cyberpunk.
It's not dark enough, is it, for you? It's not. I think because you couldn't, you know, the Amiga MS-DOS only had a certain palette. I think now you've got, you can go into your darker colors. There's a lot more sort of spectrum in your darker colors you can do now. I think it tries to look dark without actually looking dark.
I like the concept of it, but I think the actual original game the game field for me is a little bit too small. I mean, it basically takes place in and around one building, doesn't it?
Yeah, one bit in Union City.
Like, I think a full-size Union City could be a fantastic game.
See, this is the thing. I think Beneath a Steel Sky. I mean, it was a big game. I mean, I think when I had it, I think it was on about 10 discs. I don't know if I'm getting confused with Rise of the Robots. I think it was on about 10 discs. But you're right. A lot of the scenery is reused. Like, you keep on going back to the same rooms, and only really at the end do you go somewhere completely different.
See, I like point-and-click conventions where you go to new islands and Monkey Island. I always like going to new areas. And I like Indiana Jones. I always like going to new parts of the world. And I just think if you keep going back to the same place, it doesn't really. It sounds quite repetitive, maybe.
Imagine a futuristic, like, kind of cityscape thing of like Shenmue or like properly exploring kind of game.
Yeah. So you could do. It's funny because you mentioned Black Eyes White Noise. I think this kind of storyline in that kind of world, make it bigger. There's your game. There's your cyberpunk third person.
Get BJ West on board. Bob's your uncle.
BJ West is up for it. He's up for it. I've called him now. He's up for it.
But we assume.
You say about that one building in Union City, but it's about putting Robert in different forms of danger, isn't it? Because he's always on the run from police, and you have to do a lot of things not really in real time, but not as real time as Dreamweb, as I'll get into later. But it's, it's got that kind of, you never know if you're going to get captured. You never know. I love that, that kind of feeling that there's always something nasty around the corner. It captivated 11-year-old me.
Also, maybe because it's quite bright because it's beneath a steel sky and steel is quite reflective. So maybe it should be beneath a brick sky.
Bricks aren't cyberpunk either.
Beneath a brick sky. There you go.
That's the sequel name. You can have that for free, Charles. There you go.
Yeah. I think...
well, if you had to live under a metal sky or any type of sky that couldn't be a normal sky, what would you choose?
Diamond.
Diamond sky.
You wouldn't choose... What, does it can't be see-through?
Well, like a dome, like in the Simpsons movie. No, it can't be see-through then. So maybe gold? Can you imagine gold?
So it had to be something that you don't mind looking at that kind of reflects on. Yeah, gold.
Gold is a little bit too bright for me. I want something that the sun can kind of shine through and reflect through. Like a jewel, maybe an opal or a sapphire or something.
Yeah.
Beneath a gold sky.
What? Yeah.
It doesn't have a great ring to it either.
No.
Yeah. I think I made a couple of notes on Beneath the Steel Sky further. I think it could be episodical. Why does it have to end? Because the game and the story, it ends in a reunion of sorts. That's the only clue.
High school reunion.
A reunion.
Good to see you. What have you been up to these last few years?
But then it just kind of ends. It kind of ends that, Robert wins the day but why can't it be episodical? Why can't it be about him being in this massive Union City and having to do new things and you've got new characters coming in?
Union City Stories.
Union City Stories.
The actual setting reminded me a lot of Judge Dredd. The kind of the megalopolis city and the outlands outside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe they could bring in Union Kane as the president, maybe from Rocky V.
You basically have to have some kind of Rocky reference in it.
Stop bringing in Rocky references every 5 minutes.
If Adrian is going to have anything to do with this, then he has to. We have to have some kind of Rocky reference.
Sorry, no more Rocky references.
Yeah. Well, I think it's worth doing. I think if any indie devs are out there and they want my input on it and they want to do it, just give me a call.
Do you want the back of the box before we?
We got back of the box.
I managed to do some.
Did you want a jingle for back of the box?
Yeah, we'll give you a jingle, please.
Back to box, back to box, back to box jingle.
Let's actually put something together for the next episode. Next time we do that.
Back of the box. All right, so Beneath Your Steel Sky.
We'll give Keith something to do.
If you're on the fence, this might push you in the right direction. This could be the deciding vote.
Here we go, here we go.
Here we go. Featuring Revolution's innovative virtual theatre system and stunning artwork from award-winning comic book artist Dave Gibbons, Beneath Your Steel Sky is gripping science fiction thriller set in a bleak vision of the future. Robert Foster is an innocent outsider stranded in a vast city where oppressed civilians live and work in soaring tower blocks, while the corrupt Covetous?
No, you're looking at the screen. You tell us.
And rich lie in underground shielded from all pollution. Alone, save for a robot circuit board, Foster must fight for survival and discover the sinister truth behind this abduction.
Nice. They could have played up the Joey thing a bit more than a circuit board.
He's a circuit
Armed
board.
with a circuit board. Who writes these things? I don't know. Anyway, hopefully Dave hasn't written that, Dave Cummins. But rest in peace, Dave. I think he did a great job with this. I've read somewhere else that they had to bring in someone to help him with the script, but I'm going to ignore that and just say that he made this and, rest in peace, great job. So we'll move on to probably the least cyberpunk of the three, Universe. A game that I don't know if there are any physical copies of, apart from this weird bootleg that I have, and the guy who did the walkthrough on YouTube.
By least cyberpunk, you mean not remotely cyberpunk at all?
Oh, come on! Some of the towns and things you go to are very cyberpunky.
They are. It's just sci-fi and futuristic. It's not the same.
Do you want me to retitle the podcast then? Is it Amiga sci-fi games that will
and Universe?
I'll put sci-fi / cyberpunk. But yeah, okay. So it's very sci-fi.
How did you play this game? You're going to talk about that because I'm interested. Now you got a copy of this mythical game.
I don't even know. Are you sure you didn't have it? Because
I've never played it before.
I can't remember who I used to get Amiga games off of back in the day. It was you and some other people, but I can't. They're probably not friends with them anymore. But yeah, it could have been maybe someone came back in time from the parallel universe. Gave, the only copy to...
And it was your job to copy that copy and give it to and spread it, but you didn't, did you?
No, I didn't. No. Oh well. That's why I need someone to remake it. Anyway, so released 94. I couldn't get what month it was released in 94, but I'm guessing probably after Beneath the Steel Sky. Beneath the Steel Sky was released in March, so 94 was a big year. Big year. By Core Design.
Oh, yeah.
So they definitely existed, right?
They did.
Core Design definitely existed. They only tried their hand at 2 adventure games. And this was one. Oh. And Curse of Enchantia was the other.
Ah.
Yeah. So, you look at this with Curse of Enchantia. You look at Revolution with Laura the Temptress, these are good rivals to LucasArts games, aren't they?
Yeah, they look good.
Still not selling you, am I?
No, not quite yet. I'm listening.
So Curse of Enchantia is a weird game because there's no dialogue in it. Don't know if you've ever played it properly, but there's no dialogue in it. So Core had done that and gone, well, okay, we've probably got a pander to LucasArts, style a little bit. One thing about Universe is it's got a lot of dialogue. You spent half the time reading.
Oh, the intro went on and on.
I know,
text
it was
after
so boring.
This is,
Sorry.
there is, it got quite good reviews. The reviews that were able to get a hold of the copy.
Yeah.
They get about 85%. So it's not a poorly rated game. I just think it could have been done better. I think there is scope to do it better. It's the brainchild of Rolf Moore. Have you guys heard of Rolf?
No.
Nope.
He is now concept artist for the Halo games.
Oh, wow.
So he went on to do
big things.
To do big things. He was, I think, lead graphic designer on Curse of Enchantia, and then they just let him run with this. And I think, again, it's a great story. Is the main thing. And then it really pushes the Amiga palette and the Amiga. It wasn't an A1200 game. It was an AGA game. It was, it was something that you could pick up on your 1 megabyte A500 plus or your A600. It, really pushed that machine to its limits. You are a guy called Boris. There aren't enough Borises in video games, right? Question? No?
Well,
There's Boris and GoldenEye.
There's a Boris in GoldenEye. I am Boris. I am invincible.
can you play it in the GoldenEye game then, Boris?
You might be able to play it in the multiplayer, I think, if you can unlock him.
I think you might have to unlock him. I don't think he's one of the main ones.
It's a shame. A Boris spin-off game would be quite, didn't it? But there you go.
What? It just involves you hacking into stuff.
Yeah.
And running away.
Man, you guys are on a roll today. The plot, the plot pretty much mirrors Another World. So
Does it?
yeah,
Yeah.
So except switch in not Lester Chaikin, switch in Boris. I didn't know down Boris's surname, but Boris is only 16 years old. So he's been Boris Verne.
There you go.
There you go. So I think maybe there's like a Jules Verne kind of tie in there. Boris Verne. So he's been zapped away, but so he's messing about with one of his Uncle George's inventions.
Right, yeah.
Uncle George has an invention. Boris messes with it, and boom.
That's
He's in
like
a
Another
parallel
World then, isn't
universe.
it?
It is, but Lester was messing with his own experiments and got zapped to Another World.
He had a can of drink as well, didn't he? Maybe that was Foster's as well. Yeah.
Then he'd be drinking and driving.
That was what we were drinking when we were 16.
True, yeah.
Oh God. Oh.
Yeah. Let's not talk about that.
Oh no, man. But instead of a big old vat of water, you land on a little asteroid, like a little planetoid thing. So there's another thing that got me about Universe is it doesn't have standard gravity. So in every point and click game is on Earth or in different planets and stuff, but with a G 1G. Whereas Universe, this planetoid and things that you start on, it's like it's like being on the moon.
Okay.
I think there's an exception to that. How about the dig? I think that's got gravity in
The
it.
dig.
To be
the
fair.
dig.
I was wondering if it was less gravity like the moon or more gravity like the planet in Phantasm.
You can jump high.
Floaty.
Floaty.
Yeah, the whole point is that you can jump high and it, you can do things you don't really think you can do. So when you're Boris and you're on this planetoid and you've got to get to another bit that takes you up to the main city.
Yeah, I saw that bit. That was cool.
You have to, there's like a spinning asteroid thing and you're thinking, well, I can't get up there, but you have one of your jump functions. It's more like one of these LucasArts, and you choose what function you want to do, and you click on the object. You can just jump, boom, click on the planetoid, but you've got to time it.
Yeah.
So because it's spinning around and it's orbiting the planetoid that you're on, you have to time it. Otherwise, you miss the thing, and then you end up in some other part of the planetoid.
Man, there are a lot of options in this game. A lot of stuff you can click.
It is vast actually for that. There's a lot to read. There's a lot of different things you can do with things, and it's very specific, and a lot of the puzzles make absolutely no sense. But this, this is why I think, because there is a good game under there, there's a scope for not just paying homage to it. I think there's a scope to make something better, especially something in VR. Can you imagine something in VR, like in Universe, and you're like kind of 0G, and can you imagine that?
Yeah, it'd be good.
It'd be great. It would be great. There is, so you land on the asteroid. You've got to find. That's why I think it's a bit cyberpunky, because all the people that Boris meets are miserable. They are absolutely miserable. It's dark. It's moody. It's got that kind of, we don't want him being here kind of feeling. No,
It's just sci-fi dystopia.
Sci-fi dystopia.
Alternate universe. It's not cyberpunk.
Well, we'll let our listeners decide. Have a get back to us.
Cyberpunk has very precise elements to it. You need evil corporations and trench coats.
Evil corporations
and
you say?
cyborgs and this.
Yeah, where's the trench coats, Dylan?
Yeah, there's no cyborgs in this actually. All right then. Well, anyway, so sci-fi story universe. So you've got to bounce off all these asteroids. There are, like I said, there's a lot of the puzzles are trying to avoid guns and getting shot. And I really wanted Keith to be here because I gave Keith my copy of No Man's Sky. Have you guys played No Man's Sky?
Nope.
Have you ever heard of No Man's Sky?
Yep.
So No Man's Sky is a super boring, wander around a randomly generated universe game that even though I paid £15 for it, I actually gave it to Keith. I said, don't even give me this game back. Just have it.
I had loads of hype, didn't it, that game? Is that right?
Oh, it was crazy hype.
And then people returned it the next day. It's famous, wasn't it? How bad it was. Yeah.
But but apparently there's been an update that puts some kind of structure in the story to that now.
Right.
But why can't the plot of Universe be put into that game? Like, you guys need to have a look at this, because the whole, a lot of No Man's Sky looks rough because it's procedurally generated. It needs to have assets and things that can be just popped out into a planet. If they took the time and care to actually craft proper planets, design it properly, a plot like Universe, a plot like Boris kind of, bouncing around this little solar system, trying to, it would work. It would work, I think. But yeah, so, it's really funny. It's a little bit adult. But again, really love it. The humor is very much on par with Beneath a Steel Sky.
Yeah, it's a dark kind of humor, sort of.
Apart from the constant reading, I think it's one of the few things that kind of keeps it from being a 90% game.
I will say, like, the humor in a lot of these games is very of its time, like 1994. That whole kind of, I don't know, it just feels, something about it just feels dated. And we're like that kind of the sensibility to it as well, in terms of the kind of tone. That makes sense. It is very much like post Bill Hicks, same kind of time as the Starman comics, if anyone's read those, like kind of.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much in these to offend anyone.
No, but I mean, it's not an offensive thing so much. It's more like the kind of cool, wisecracky, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know what you mean.
this guy is very much like that kind of. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
But it feels very much. I don't mean that in a bad way. It just is what it is.
It feels 90s-y. It does.
Yeah, 90s-y.
It does. Yeah, all of these games feel really 90s-y. And that's why I've enjoyed, going through them and revisiting them, because they're like time capsules.
Did you complete Universe back in the old days?
I didn't. I had to watch the walkthrough to actually see how it ended.
Oh, okay.
And there's a lot of things in there, actually, that I forgot were in it. So it's got loads of side games in it.
Oh, is it?
So you know how Full Throttle's got all those little... No.
Sam and Max has got quite a few as well, to be fair.
But from what... Again, this is from memory. I think there's a Space Harrier type side game in Another World. Not in Another World, in Universe. I think there is a kind of a jokey Space Invaders. So, it's not just a point and click game. It's got these other...
If they're done well,
to...
they can be really quite fun. They add to the game, I think.
Yeah.
But they can also some detract from the game, I think.
Yeah.
I haven't played them, to be fair, on this particular game.
I think they did neither with Universe. I think they were just kind of there and
it's a bit of fun kind of thing.
I mentioned Operation Stealth earlier. That's a sort of James Bond rip-off game that Delphine did. Yeah. And there's loads of side games in that. There's one where you have to sort of swim through some caverns and stuff. It's all very basic, but it doesn't add much to the game or detract from it. But same with this is what game developers did with these games to try and get a bit more.
Almost
out of them.
Trying to make the point and click adventure games stand out a little bit more. As in, it's not just we mix it up a little bit.
Yeah,
we give a bit of action to you old timers that just want to click around.
Yeah. But yeah, okay, so there's more, I think Boris going around this universe, doing dodgy deals with aliens would lend itself good to a game these days. I tracked down the guy who programmed the Amiga version. Really nice guy called Gary Antcliffe. This is a funny story how he got involved with this. So he went to Core, and initially he was tasked with working on an Amiga version of Choplifter.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I remember that. Yeah.
We all like a bit of Choplifter.
Helicopter game.
Yeah, not bad, is it actually? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they couldn't get the license, so Core couldn't get the Choplifter license. I guess it's a Sega game, isn't it? Choplifter? Yeah, they couldn't get the license. A lot of Sega games did end up in the Amiga. Thanks, Adrian.
They did.
Yeah, back in the day. So they got him to do Curse of Enchantia first, and then he went on to do Universe. But yeah, I mean, he said here, he says it was a big game. I can't remember how many discs it was on. It can't have been as many as Beneath a Steel Sky, but he said, so it was big by Amiga standards. It took them 18 months just to code the game. It's a big, with all the writing and all the, menagerie of things you can do
I feel harsh saying this, and I don't want to say 18 months wasted, but no one's heard of this game. Why isn't it bigger?
I think, a lot of it comes down to marketing, doesn't it? And like Amiga games and things, I remember reading about Amiga games in magazines, going down to Electronics Boutique or whatever, and there not being the game. Like, the game wasn't there. It was only the games by the bigger, like the Delphine Classics collection and things. Those were guaranteed to be in the shops. Things like Universe, things like DreamWeb.
Plus,
you wouldn't have got.
They might have targeted the wrong customers. They might have targeted the whole universe, not really specific niche segments.
Yeah, they're like, dispatch this to the universe, please.
Rob's is shaking his head.
Oh, man.
But interestingly, Beneath the Steel Sky, not good with helicopters, but in a weird way, not having this helicopter game helped Universe.
That's mad.
Yeah.
That's mad that you've even put helicopters in that order.
Surely there's a helicopter in the last game.
There's a helicopter. I don't think so, but I'm sure you'll find one if there is. But yeah, so, Gary's done a lot of things actually. He went on to work for Sony. He did Little Big Planet. He worked on Medieval sequel, Killzone 2, Riggs, which is on the VRs. So he went on to have a really great career. He left the industry and wouldn't tell me why he left. So we'll just leave that.
Have you got an interview on the site then? Is that?
Yeah. So thank you for pointing that out. So, at the time that this podcast goes out, you can read, that Gary Antcliffe interview and also something associated with Dreamweb, which I'll mention in a moment.
Maybe you left to go to university.
Oh. I thought my jokes are bad today.
Oh man. This is why we need Keith here to rein this all in anyway.
Yeah. That's true.
But yeah, so I asked Gary, I said, he's worked on some big things. I said, do you reckon any kind of way that Universe, could and maybe should be brought back? So he says this, I think there's always scope to take old games and bring them into the modern age. It needs to be done skillfully though, and I think something like Universe would end up being a big project. Not are they? I think it would need a lot of detail, and more interesting mechanics. So he wasn't a big fan of the mechanics of the old game. The player expects so much more from games these days. True. So the depth of the story and dialogue would need to increase. And there's a lot of dialogue in Universe as it is.
Ooh, increase.
He wants more. He wants more dialogue. So more reading. No, obviously it'll all be in actors, but then, oh god, the dubbing and, oh god, it's giving me a headache just thinking about it. I asked him then, could it be done in VR? And then he has experience in doing stuff in VR. So he said here, could it be done in VR? Yes, to some extent, but it would probably be quite tough to do. There are a lot of issues with VR, and you have to be very careful so as not to cause simulator sickness. So I think you probably get quite a lot of in Universe.
That gravity, can you imagine?
Oh god, bounce around those planets. Oh my, yeah, you probably get really sick. I really suffer bad from, I've just got a PSVR and I suffer bad from sickness on that, but that's a question. That's a problem for another day, actually. So he was the engine lead on Riggs, as I mentioned, and they spent a lot of time on that game trying to make it the best we could without making the player sick. I played the Riggs demo, it makes me pretty sick, so, and this is from a guy who knows what he's talking about. So, Universe, is it going to be a VR game? Let's put it out there, I think it'd be great. He goes on to say, a game in VR needs a high frame rate to reduce the likelihood of sim sickness. You also need to render the view from 2 viewpoints, one for each eye. That's true. You need to try to keep things as real as possible. We often cheat in games to get a high frame rate, but with VR, if you walk close to some objects, you need a good amount of detail for it to fit into your immersive world. So a lot of detail, a high frame rate, and render to 2 eye buffers is going to be very challenging. I don't think many people are going to want to do this with Universe, but we can hope. So you guys have seen the game. It's not just me waffling on about Universe. Do you think it's worth?
It reminded me, because I wouldn't say I played loads of The Dig, but it reminded me of that kind of sort of artistic style. Maybe not quite as crisp graphics, but I think The Dig was a couple years later.
They don't mention The Dig, but I think it was a big influence in it. Yeah,
I think The Dig must have come a bit later though. I think.
Wasn't it?
I know it was postponed, wasn't it? The Dig. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe the same sort of time.
By
actually.
the time it finished, yeah.
Also, I don't know. The kind of graphics remind me a bit like of weird dreams a little bit. That kind of
Yeah.
Just the look and feel of the characters. I know it wasn't the same sort of setting, obviously, but
Yeah.
I got that kind of sort of nice look. I look good. It looked good.
I think a way that a lot of well, I want to say enemies, but they're just other inhabitants of this world. The way they're animated is really scary.
Yeah.
Like, I think it looks really weird and really odd, and it does have that's from Weird Dreams. It does have
It's reminding me of the same sort of look and feel. Yeah.
I like being unnerved though in games. I don't know if our listeners feel the same. I don't know if you guys feel the same. I like being unnerved. I like being taken out of my comfort zone.
Yeah,
a
no,
little bit
I like the
in
look
games.
of it. It just seemed a bit too texty and a bit,
It's too texty.
and a little bit. You like Rob said earlier, the options. Just looking around on it, you know, I want to watch a walkthrough in it. Just so many options. I'm like, whoa, that's a little bit too much.
I needed a walkthrough back in the day. I mean, it's not, like I said, a lot of the puzzles make no sense.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff is on that planetoid at the beginning, which you can go around 360 degrees.
Yeah, I noticed that.
And it's so
Yeah.
easy to miss a screen with like a rock on it or like a metal bar or something that you need on it. You'll just be walking around this planetoid, jumping up and down on this, this asteroid trying to get to this top bit and not being able to get in. You have to get through like a vent, don't you, to get into the city proper. You won't be able to get in there. You'll just keep on like, I cannot get into this vent. Where is this where is this like mythical rod that we need, So
It's like my nightmare of a game.
this is why I think there's a good game under there. It got a lot of praise at the time because of the art and the way that they put it into the Amiga, and because every screen looks really pretty. Like you can't deny that in universe it all looks gorgeous.
I thought it looked like a good 90s, mid-90s PC adventure, like better than Amiga. I was surprised it was an Amiga game.
Yeah, so
yeah.
I think with MS-DOS they must have had more colours to choose from, but when they were scanning it all in, they were able to get it on there. I think maybe the Amiga was only 256 colours or something, maybe. I can't remember. But it is something, I think, again, something that's worth picking up. I've made a note here that someone should start a petition. Maybe I should start a petition.
Yeah.
But yeah, good.
No back of the box, I'm afraid, for this one.
That's what I was kind of pausing for you and hoping that you come up with. No?
I looked around the whole universe. I couldn't find one.
You'd be looking a long time, right? So yeah, universe. The final one, and probably the most intriguing of the three, the most cyberpunk
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
of the three is Dreamweb.
Dreamweb.
It's actually, I think, the most infuriating of the three because it didn't get good reviews.
No, I read about this. People didn't like it. It got very mixed reviews, didn't it? Is that fair?
It divided opinion. I'd say that. It again released in '94, so at one point in '94, no idea. So these games were all going head to head with each other without really knowing it. All we had was Amiga magazines. I don't think the video games programs at the time really went into much detail on Amiga stuff, did they? It was more the console-based stuff.
it was all consoles, yeah.
It was all the console-based stuff. So it was only people who read Amiga Power, who read CU Amiga, who knew these things were happening. So these guys didn't even know they were in competition with each other for Amiga games weren't way expensive, but were about 20, 30 quid, weren't they?
And I think also these weren't the kind of games that were really adapted for consoles.
No.
You would have had other games that start out on Amiga, get transferred, those obviously get more attention, but something like this, not really so much.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The point and click ones, in there, they kind of get, you can only, maybe got them to a Mega CD, you could have gotten to a 3DO, I'm clutching at straws here, but you couldn't really get these out. So, Dreamweb, released in 1994, developed by Creative Reality. Their only other game after this was something called Martian Gothic Unification, which no one has heard of.
No.
I had to play it via emulation.
Really good.
It's like Resident Evil set on Mars.
That sounds good.
Again, it got divisive reviews.
On what platform?
On PlayStation.
Oh, right.
On PlayStation 1. So this, I reckon a copy of that is going to be pretty rare. So if you've got a copy
Sounds
of that,
interesting.
it is actually. It's a really interesting game. And I managed to track down.
Oh, here we go.
A guy who worked with Creative Reality on both of those games. So I will go into a bit more on that in a moment. So for those of you who don't know what DreamWeb is, it's another point-and-click game, but it's a bit different from the other two, Adrian. How is it different from the other two?
Because it's got webs and dreams in it.
It has got webs and dreams in it. I know
the big difference, and I was quite astounded because it's one of those games I've heard about, but never really. I think I was going towards my more PC days there, and I was like, moving to the PC. But DreamWeb, was it on the PC out of interest?
Yep, this is an MS-DOS game.
There you go, my bad.
These three games are all MS-DOS games as well. DreamWeb had, the version I had, just had text again, but, just to refamiliarize myself with it, the best walkthrough to look at is the CD-ROM one, which has got all of the accents and stuff on it. But yeah.
But the big difference is if you were a bird and you were flying over this cyberpunk this city, that is what you'd be looking at, wouldn't you? The bird's eye view.
Bird's eye view.
The top-down view.
It's like a point-and-click Alien Breed, isn't it?
It looks like Alien Breed.
You know what it reminded me of in terms of feel and concept and tone? Hotline Miami.
No, I don't know what Hotline Miami.
Hotline Miami is a more kind of modern game, top-down kind of thing, but it's like I think you might have amnesia, but you keep on like being called the phone to like do these like kind of assassination jobs.
Holy moly! I mean, that's almost the plot of DreamWeb. So.
I mean, it's got an amazing like electro soundtrack.
How new is this game? Is it real?
It's about 5-6 years old now.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned soundtrack. Actually, all three soundtracks of these games are amazing. That's one thing that again links them, is they're so immersive and they improve. Some music detracts from atmosphere in games, but these really do improve it. And if someone give me a soundtrack for each one of these, I'd gladly take it. So yeah, Adrian's right, Rob's right. You're from a bird's eye view. Everything is compacted, which is odd because the screen is, you see Ryan, who's the main guy, you see him on the left side all the time. Clicking on him goes into the inventory.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all of the rooms, and I found this really weird at the time, and it was weird watching it back. All of the rooms are actually as big as the rooms would have been. So a lot of things about video games, and a lot of people will tell you about video game design, is that you make environments bigger than they actually are to get around, isn't it? DreamWeb doesn't do that. Every room, did you notice this?
Yeah, that's true. Actually, when you think about it,
in DreamWeb is pretty much as big as it would be. So it's hard, like, for you to get, it'd be like 2 steps to get across the other side of a room.
So the opposite of Alien Breed, because they were big rooms.
I know,
they?
yeah. Obviously, Alien Breed was like multi-screen rooms, but
I'm trying to think of other games where the rooms are proportioned to real life.
How
about things like Silent Hill and Resident Evil? Would you not?
No, because they'd be big, because they're third-person games. You need, for the arc and turning the character, you need the rooms to be bigger. With DreamWeb, it's so odd. It's so odd, and also because everything is like scaled. You have to use a little. In the bottom left corner of the screen is a zoom. So when you're moving around the cursor and things, it's giving you like a zoomed version of whatever you're hovering over. So if you need something off a table, you need to hover your cursor over the table and then look at the zoomed view in the bottom left to see the actual individual object. Wow. Because we're talking about pixel art, some of them don't even look like the things that they're meant to be. Like a key will look like a calculator, and it's like little things like that. People hated that when this game came out. They saw all of these other ones, stuff like Universe, stuff like Beneath the Steel Sky, in open, expansive, easy to navigate. You go to DreamWeb, and you'll be like, it's worse than Universe trying to find a key object because it's all like maybe 1 or 2 pixels across some of these things. So people hated it. People are like, why am I looking top down at this? This is lazy.
I've never heard of a point and click game that's top down before. Have you played one like that before?
This is the first. I think this is the only top down point and click game I've ever played, and it was weird.
Unless you count something like Story of Thor, but I guess that was very action based.
Yeah, I mean,
it did have text in though. You did have to explore.
Yeah. Maybe there's others, but I can't think of any top of my head.
I'll accept
properly.
it. I'll accept that there's nothing else. I can't think of anything else that.
DreamWeb 2, maybe? Does that ever come out?
DreamWeb 2? Jokes. But yeah, so it has that was the style that they chose. I will read out the plot for people who don't know what DreamWeb is about. So, this is stolen off my favorite website, Wikipedia. The protagonist and anti-hero. Ooh. That's why it's more anti-hero, cyberpunk. Is Ryan, a bartender in a futuristic dystopian city, implied to be in England, as evidenced by the use of British English terms such as lift and bonnet. Wow.
Bonnet like a car bonnet.
Yep. Who has been plagued by strange dreams of an entity known as the DreamWeb. In the dream that opens the game, Ryan is asked by the master monk of the Keepers to be the deliverer and kill the 7 evils.
That's not really cyberpunk, but
No, but, you know.
Roll with the punches.
Roll with the punches, Rob. Roll with the punches.
get to what's real.
Who are united to break the DreamWeb and send mankind spiraling into chaos. So, after Ryan leaves his girlfriend Eden's house for work, he learns that due to frequent lateness, his boss has decided to fire him.
Oh no.
Bad day for Ryan, right?
He's such a rebel. Isn't he?
But, get this right, after hearing Ryan's explanation, i.e. sleep deprivation caused by crazy dreams, he decides to give him a 2-week, fully paid vacation to recover.
Sorry, boss. Sorry I'm late again. You're fired. But I had a bad dream. Oh, have 2 weeks off, fully paid. You whippersnapper.
Fully paid. You're an awful bartender who never turns up, but you're having bad dreams, so I'll give you 2 weeks.
I'm going to try that on my boss. See what happens. What do you reckon?
I don't know, man. A bar job seems like something that'd be really hard to fill.
Oh God, where's Keith when you need him? Anyway, on the bar's TV.
That wasn't a pun. Just
Inadvertent pun.
I was being sarcastic.
They're the worst. Right, inadvertent pun. Right. So on the bar's TV, Ryan learns the name and location of the first evil, David Crane.
Oh no, we've interviewed David Crane, haven't we?
I was just thinking that.
A rock star, David Crane, who is housed in a hotel for a gig later that night, and so truly begins the first of the 7 missions.
A real pitfall, even.
A pitfall
See what
of
I
a
do.
mission.
These 7, is there 7 rings of hell? Am I talking rubbish?
Dante's Inferno had, I think,
Yeah.
7 circles of hell.
And didn't you say Eden?
Eden.
Isn't
There's
this
a lot
getting
of hell. Yeah, there's a lot of hell sort of, twisted into this.
No helicopters yet, though.
No, but hell. Helicopter. Oh man, I'm really sorry, listeners. This is we've gone a bit mad today. It received, I want to say mediocre, but it's bad. The game received bad reviews, but I loved it. I thought it was completely mad. That first mission where you go after David Crane is it's well thought out. You've got to have certain things to get around, and as long as you can find them in pixelated form, then, all the puzzles make sense, and you have you log onto a computer to get some files, and then you go and get this key, and then you have to buy a gun from this other guy, and then, get some credit. It's all kind of, it's all logical.
Yeah.
It's all logical. It's great. The second mission, again, logical. Find this, do this, get this done. The rest of the game, it's like they were asleep. It's like they were asleep and like, oh, we've said there's 7. We've said there's 7,
yeah.
so we've got to, whack in another 5. And the game after the first couple of missions, unfortunately, just feels like it's on autopilot. Like I said, you can download this game, play it on ScumVM, and you'll see it. Just play the first couple of missions, and then I'll tell you what happens at the end in a minute, and then you'll be happy with it. But isn't that a funky plot for a game?
Yeah, I like the sound of it. The look's different as well. I have to say that, when you see the picture of, is it Ryan?
Yeah.
I don't like the comic book art style. Have you seen, do you know what I mean? Like the sort of picture of him.
The
and
way
stuff.
that they've drawn him. On
Yeah,
the
it
screen.
looks a little bit amateurish. I don't want to sound rude, but it doesn't really.
I mean, think about early 90s Amiga art.
It just seemed very simple colours. I don't know.
Yeah. But,
What would you liken it to for people who haven't seen it?
I think it should be more gritty, sort of like, okay, when you think of Monkey Island, the first game, I loved it when you sort of spoke to some characters and you saw the zoomed in pictures.
Yeah.
And that was really grisly and a bit raw, and I thought, well, this almost is so different to the usual game.
They
It stood
scanned
out.
them in, didn't they?
Yeah.
I think.
But the picture of Ryan, it just looks like a flat face. Like, I could draw him really easy, just like all the same skin tone, and he just looked a little bit.
Ryan
know.
might have been drawn directly onto the game, whereas the stuff in Monkey Island was art. That
It's
they
so well
scanned
done.
in,
I'm not expecting that quality necessarily.
Yeah, but again, see that's another reason why maybe DreamWeb should be picked up again.
I mean, that's what it's up against. That was what it was up against at the time. But yeah, it's a good concept.
Yeah.
It's a good concept, and what another thing I like with the game, and it came with a little booklet.
Ah, yeah.
You heard
I've read about
this?
this. Yeah, it's interesting.
So the booklet is called Diary of a Madman. So the mad is in brackets with a question mark.
Yeah.
So it's Diary of a Mad Man.
So he could be a sane man.
He could be a sane man. He could be a madman. But so I managed to track down the author.
Oh, wow.
The author of that little booklet. Steve. Yeah.
Wow. Who haven't you tracked down?
I've been really busy. I've been really busy, and again, another top bloke, Stephen Marley. He's an author by trade, so they got him to do this. I asked him how he got involved with the project. He also wrote the plot and everything for Martian Gothic. So the two games the two big-ish games that Creative Reality did, he did them for them. So I tracked him down. I managed to track him down. The other guys who worked on Dreamweb have just disappeared off the face of the planet. I don't know.
Like the Seven Evils?
Do you know? Yeah, no. Where have they gone?
Wow, really?
Yeah, I know. So I asked him on him. So I asked him a few things. So I asked him, sort of, I said, the story's great. It's really funny because you think that Ryan's absolute, bat poop crazy. So I asked him, he said this, the game was already completed before I came on the scene. So there was very little creative freedom. I did play it, so he did play the game, a few times just to get an angle on the background story. The developers did agree that there was one crucial area where there was a lot of latitude, the protagonist's state of mind. Here's this guy, Ryan, who has a dream in which a man in a red robe tells him to kill 7 evil, in speech marks, people, and his instant response is, okay.
Oh.
So, well, alright, one of the evil people is a rock star, so that's understandable, but my first reaction to Ryan's prompt acceptance of serial killing was, this guy is fracking nuts. And he puts in brackets, you're a nerd when you think fracking is something that happens on Battlestar Galactica. But yeah. Same as, Stephen, same as. But so they told Stephen that Ryan could be pretty bat poop crazy. So it's now, what happens is when you play the game, and when you read the book, it's implied that Ryan is descending into psychosis. So he's so you think he might have fabricated the whole Dreamweb scenario, so you're playing a nutcase. The more you play the game, the more it becomes apparent that he's not mad.
Oh.
That's what got
spoiler alert there.
That's what, sorry, spoiler alert. I did say there would be some spoilers.
Yeah, you did, to be fair.
That
one's a pretty unavoidable one.
Did instruct them to play the first 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. And then by that time, you're kind of, alright, so this guy really is in the Dreamweb. So he is being told by these people to kill these people. So, yeah. There is actually a bit, Stephen says something about, the story. So I asked him, I said, what do you think about the whole, it quickly becomes apparent that Ryan's not going mad. So he says this, it's true that he appears sane in the game, but I had a real difficulty with that. Regarding the red-robed figure in an early scene, I wrote down, Santa Claus gave me a gun for Christmas.
Wow.
You've got to read this little booklet, it's great. That pretty much set the tone for Diary of a Madman. So I asked him, would you be up for working on Dreamweb, reimagining? And he said, maybe if they offered me $1 million and a cup of tea and a biscuit. We can sort out the cup of tea and the biscuit.
We can.
Yeah. But I have so many original stories in my head that I would much prefer to do one or more of those. So that's fair enough.
Doesn't have to be an original story.
What?
Doesn't have to be an original story.
Well, it could be like a different one or just copying his own one.
Yeah, it's gonna be based on the game.
Based on the game, but yeah, he preferred to do his own stuff. So he's he's done with DreamWeb, unfortunately. But yeah, so again, please do have a read on the site with Stephen Marley. The main reason that DreamWeb is famous, or is infamous,
yeah, I've heard this,
is because of one scene.
Yeah.
I'm asking because you've heard of this. Have you heard of this, Rob?
No, I didn't get that far in the walkthrough.
So one, I'll give the listeners a clue. It starts with P and ends in Enos.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that something you can zoom in on, or
So David Crane is a rock star, not the guy who made Pitfall, right? David Crane's a rock star. So you bust in, the whole first mission is you bust in the hotel, but then you got to kick the door down. You got to get in there. So David Crane's having a fun time with a young lady. So you see that is the first thing, but then obviously she gets a bit scared and jumps off. At which point you see pixelated pee-pee. Pixelated pee-pee in an Amiga /MS-DOS game in 1994.
And quite early on in the game, isn't it, I assume?
It's the first mission. The first mission, which if you know what you're doing, takes about 10-15 minutes to get to.
Right.
You see the penis. I just said penis.
No.
I said it again. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Family-friendly pod.
I apologize. I'm sorry. I do apologize. Hopefully Keith can bleep that out later.
why don't you apologize?
It's a scientific word. Okay, I won't apologize. Thanks, Rob. All right. But yeah, so that's really the the main reason why, and I think that's sad. I think there's a good story there. I think if someone did, actually, just as an aside, the Australia rejected the original version of the game. They had to put pants on him, and then it finally they finally managed to release it in Australia. They had to put pants on David Crane.
Do you see a naked woman in that same scene, or
you do? But they're not bothered about giving her pants or anything. But yeah, you do see like pixelated lady parts and that. So Dreamweb,
Wow.
check it out. But I think the whole premise of if the player didn't know whether he's going mad or not, that could make a really interesting game because you're doing all these things. I think, something like Grand Theft Auto, it's okay. A lot of it's pure fantasy on one hand, but it's so grounded on the other. You are a criminal doing criminal things. If you're man told to kill evil people and you're doing all these things, but there are doubts creeping in, like, what am I doing here? Is he going mad? Why is he killing these people? Yeah. You could really get into people's heads with that.
Or even just seeing the journey. I think not enough TV shows start from one person and changing throughout. That's why I like Breaking Bad so much, because it shows Walter White, his transformation over five. Oh, it's brilliant. So I'm not saying it's similar to Dreamweb, but I kind of get that impression that are you on his side or not? Do you agree with him?
So he starts off as, bad bartender.
And now he's
Tom Cruise,
the original Heisenberg. No, he's
and
not
then
really.
he's like, then you can see him getting worse and worse, and then, but the only way to complete the game is to do what it says and kind of track him down. But again, the original game, I tell people play it. Play the first couple of missions. You'll complete the rest of the game and no problem. The end, you can turn this off now if you don't want to know what the end of Dreamweb is. But his reward is getting gunned down by the police. So basically, he kills all of these 7 people. He returns to the real. So you go to the Dreamweb after each sort of killing. So after you killed each person, a little kind of portal opens up. You go into it. You go back to the Dreamweb, check on your progress, etc., etc. So when you go back into the real world, you get gunned down by the police, and then your soul is sort of evaporated into the Dreamweb.
Is that like kind of heaven? Is that what it implies?
I guess so. But is it? Is it going to be heaven for Ryan? But yeah, mad, isn't it? I think the whole concept of the game is crazy. Right? That's why people still talk about it now.
It's certainly original, and I like games that try new things. So credit where it's due. Yeah, credit where it's due. Yeah, Dreamweb. Yeah.
So there we go. Those are my sort of three cyberpunk / sci-fi games.
I've got the back of the box of Dreamweb.
You've got back of the box of Dreamweb. Let's
really
hear
quickly.
It. Let's hear it, yeah.
It was just a dream. It was so real, so vivid. It was just a dream, wasn't it? In your dreams, you travel to the Dreamweb. Everyone does. It affects the plane of your subconscious. Ryan has a disturbing inner turmoil, driving him, testing him, forcing him through this battle of the subconscious mind. The Dreamweb is about to be shattered.
Mad.
Nice.
Crazy.
You know, throughout this entire pod, you've kept saying Cyberpunk. We haven't even mentioned the most Cyberpunk game ever, which came out, I think, slightly before these, also on the Amiga, which we will be covering this game sometime in the next few months. Syndicate.
Oh, Syndicate. Yeah.
Say what?
Yeah. I mean, Syndicate, I think